We are just one day away from Canada-Argentina semifinal of Copa America. Welcome to Vemos, presented by Degree. Gareth Wheeler, Oliver Platt, AGR, Jordan Wilson with you to break it all down, get you even more hyped than you already are for one of the biggest games in recent memory for the Canadian men's national team. Here is the Copa America bracket where we stand. Argentina, Canada, Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. On the other side of the bracket, I can't wait for this one as well. Uruguay, after knocking out Brazil in penalties, they face Colombia. Few sides have looked more convincing than the Colombians in world football. Oliver Platt is down in New Jersey. The Argentina-Canada game is going to be played at MetLife Stadium in the swamp. We cannot wait for it. Ollie, what's the atmosphere like right now? I'm assuming you're seeing more and more blue and white and messy jerseys wherever you go on the street. And Canada is trying to maintain their focus and keep this high level of confidence they seemingly have and build it towards a kickoff.
Yeah, a little bit. But to be honest with you, I think so far it's been fairly low key and it hasn't felt much different to any other Canada game that you can come out and cover. I think that will change today, when they start to get to, their official media availabilities, the press conference, and they'll go and visit the stadium today. I think today is the day it will start to sink in and you'll start to see, the massive Argentine media contingent and the supporters starting to arrive and all of that kind of element of it. But yesterday was quiet. They were way out in New Jersey in a nice quiet area, training on their own, just a few Canadian journalists in attendance. And like I said yesterday, there is just a confidence and a calmness about this Canadian team. So we'll see if that changes and how it affects them when the madness starts to hit. But for now, they're pretty steady.
Right now, they're brushing aside any notion of feeling any kind of pressure heading into this match. Here's Ismael Kone on the pressure of facing Argentina.
There's no pressure. Like I said, there's no pressure. It's gonna be a fun game. We're at the stage now where we play those teams, and it's gonna be like that. When we played in Holland, it was the same. When we played in France, they screamed for Giroud because it was his last home game, like he was the president. So it's the same. It's football games. At the end of the day, we have to focus on what we can control, and we can't control the fans. We can control on the pitch and the way we play and the way we do stuff to win games. So, yeah, it's no pressure. That's what I'll say to this. I think now the first thing is that it's the good that we played them once already, so we know what to kind of expect. I think obviously we knew the quality they have, we knew the pace, the tempo that they play, and we knew that they're a team that knows how to win games. Sometimes if it's not pretty, they don't know how to win, especially with those quality players. So now that we've seen that, I think it's going to be to us to re-watch the video again to know we messed up and to know we did good to kind of bring it together and be better. But what I'll say is we need to make sure that we're better, I would say, because I have a lot of players that stay up the field and don't come back. So if we could be good on rest defense, that would be good for us. And then just making sure, I think in the first half, in last game, we had so many occasions that we didn't put the ball in the back of the net. I think that's something we need to get better. And if we do that early against those teams and make sure they suffer when they don't have the ball, that will give us a good chance to win this game.
It's going to be a rematch of the first game of this tournament. Let's get back to that notion of pressure. Jordan, I just don't buy it that there's no pressure on these players. There's always pressure to perform, whether it's for your teammates, your country, your family, whatever it is. There's going to be pressure. It's just a matter of how you deal with it. And this team has dealt with it extremely well, not just in this tournament, but in previous games as well. What do you make of that notion of pressure? There has to be some.
Yeah, I think there's a bit, right? Again, when you're going into any type of game, any type of magnitude, I understand what Ismael Kone is saying. I think he's trying to say that the pressure shouldn't be solely on Canada. I think the pressure in this type of match, in the semifinal of a Copa America, Argentina being the world champs, everyone's looking at them to win. Messi's troops, everything about this is all Argentina. I think you can sit back and just maybe spoil the party and absorb that if you're a Canadian fan or a Canadian player. So I kind of get what he's saying, but this is also coming from a guy who is stone cold in the penalty shootout. This is probably a guy, I look at him sometimes, I see two players coming to him. I'm like, maybe you should give up the ball. He kind of wiggles and dangles and gets around them. I think for him, he's probably one of those players that could say that and maybe back it up and be like, you know what, I try to play the same way all the time. But of course, there is pressure when you go into this tournament and this magnitude. But again, Canada playing Argentina in the US semifinal. I think you go into this match and just enjoy it. So that's probably what he's focusing on.
I just laughed at all the pressures on Argentina. It's like as if these players haven't been in pressure-packed situations before, like World Cup finals with their club teams. Like I don't know. For me, AGR, I think that the Canadian players will feel more pressure whether they admit it or not.
Yeah, I mean, of course, there is that feel of what you're up against, the grandeur of it all, right? Like, if anything, almost it'd be more nerves I'd get versus pressure, just because it's like Canada's
Sure.
not supposed to be here, right? Like, that's it. Like, this is the Final Four of Copa America. This is a true heavyweight. This is a team that doesn't just expect to win the tournament. Like, if for them, anything but winning the tournament, like it's good. Even if they lose in the final, it's going to feel like national inquiry. It's going to feel like someone died. We've seen it before. Like I'd say for Canada, I'd say more nerves than anything, because there's zero. That's I think kind of guess what we got to conflate, that Canada has. They are playing with house money to have gotten this far. They already, even in the quarterfinals, we're having this debate. Now it's locked in. So no, I get where Ismail's Kone is coming from, and what I've liked and him and Richie Larea's comments really stood out yesterday. There's a good confidence about it, which I think is what you need. There's not an arrogance, there's a confidence. They're happy they're here, but also they understand the stakes.
But you just can't go out and get smashed, Ollie, in this game, because then the comments and the pressure and the story may be written in a different way. Like, it's one thing playing against three teams in the buildup to this who didn't play in the last World Cup because they didn't qualify. It's another thing going up against Argentina and what that outcome looks like.
Yeah, of course. I'm with AGR on this one. I think it's more, nerves are going to be the factor more than pressure. You're right that, of course, Argentina have been in situations like this and they can handle this pressure. I don't think anyone's disputing that, but there is undoubtedly, for me, more pressure on them to win this game, regardless of whether they can deal with it or not. And I would say that, like, I'm sure there are some Canadian players who are going to be pretty nervy going into this game, and understandably so. And hopefully they can turn it into positive energy. But Kone and a couple of others are like they're so unfazed, it seems like, by everything. There was one of the journalists was kind of putting the stakes to him, building it up, saying you're going to be playing Messi, Argentina, Copa America semifinal, 80,000 people. And Kone's response was, actually, it's 82,000 people. Like he just seems so unbothered by everything that comes in his path. So there is something about some of these guys that they're just wired a little bit differently, I think, to you and I.
And let's fill in the blank here. Familiarity breeds what? Because these two sides played 18 days ago. It was the first match of the tournament. It was a big occasion. So there's going to be reference points to draw upon here. Typically, when you go through a big tournament, facing the same team twice favors the side that lost the first time around. Does that apply this time around, AGR? What do you make of that? Who benefits more from the fact that these two sides played each other in the first game?
I feel like it benefits Canada. I think when I first, you thought of this, they played each other. Anecdotally, I thought, okay, typically I find the underdogs benefit from playing another team again. So I went and did some research. It rarely happens the last few World Cups just because of the bracket. It happens a lot more in Copa America. I went and there's kind of 4 scenarios I looked at. One was in 2021. Brazil played Peru. They battered them 4-0 in the group stage. They met in the later in the tournament in the semis, 1-0 for Brazil. So Peru did a lot better to learn what they took from the first match. They did well. 2016 Argentina comfortably beat Chile 2-1 in the group stage. Should have been 2-0. They lost. Then they lost to the Chile in the final. Chile took what they learned from that match and went out and won. In 2015 Argentina, though, they drew Paraguay. Paraguay got a confident result. Maybe they're a bit overconfident. They got battered 6-1 in the semifinals when they met again. And then in 2011, Uruguay, Peru 1-1. Great result for Peru. Well, they didn't learn from it. They lost 2-0 in the semis. So what that shows is, when you lose the first game, you kind of you can take it from there. You can learn. For Canada, especially, you have to remember this was their first ever Copa America game. Was Argentina, was sold out crowd. It was Messi. for them, it was just seeing this team up close. It was patterns. It was still learning under Jesse Marsh. I think they've grown so much, and what's been important is they've gotten better each game. Venezuela was by far their best performance, and I think when you look at how teams typically fare when they play another one for the second time, there's a lot that will benefit Canada. Of course, Argentina will now no longer have that element of surprise with Canada, but Canada doesn't want to surprise anyone. Jesse Marsh hasn't been tinkering. He hasn't been throwing out new look back threes, center backs playing strikers. No, it's the same thing every game. There is no surprise, and I think that benefits Canada.
Although you can make the historical context, absolutely AGR, but when it came to that opening match, I think it caught us by surprise a little bit how high of a line Canada was playing. They were very compact, and they basically begged Argentina. They said, try to beat us over the top. Like, Argentina will understand that that's how they played. It's just whether Canada comes out and plays that way again this time around. Jordan, from a tactical perspective, from what you saw, do you think that first game benefits Argentina or Canada more going forward?
It's tough because I think when I started and doing research, I was saying Canada, right? But I think also, if we can remember, granted, they had an advantage and they should have been fine for this coming out second half, 5, 6, 7 minutes later. But if you notice, even just dropping Paredes a little bit back and then splitting the back four a little bit, making that like a back three, they did certain things. You're going to see Argentina changing, and the difference between Argentina and Canada is just the depth and options that they can go and change things. Canada, as AGR alluded to, is pretty much cutthroat and is going to give you that 13 and 14 man performance. They're going to play a certain way. So I think it does favor Argentina. The more football that you have to play, I think it favors the better side. Like, for me, I will just also say with semifinal games, they're usually just a close contest, right? It's almost not going out to win. It's just protecting what you have. I think that mentality could favor Canada in ways. They're not going to sit back and absorb, but I think seeing them a bit more resolute, a bit more pragmatic, I could see a situation where this goes to pens.
All right. Well, it's the summer of penalties, or at least very extra time when it comes to the Euros perspective as well. I mean, this is an outstanding accomplishment for this team, making it to a semifinal. But here's the debate that's being put out by our One Soccer producers. What's the more impressive accomplishment? Is it qualifying for the 2022 World Cup or reaching the semifinal at this Copa America? Ollie, kick us off with this great debate. What's the more
Come on, Ollie.
impressive accomplishment?
Come on, Ollie. A lot's riding on this, buddy.
I think it's this, guys. Like, I know that the World Cup qualifying was a wonderful journey and a great achievement. I'm not trying to diminish it at all. I think it was maybe also been more memorable for some people because it happened in Canada, partially in Canada. It was longer. And it was also the first time that this team has really, achieved something big. So I think it will stick in the memory in some ways, maybe for longer. But for me, I think it's pretty simple. Is by definition, it's more impressive to reach the semifinals of a major tournament than it is to qualify for one. I think that's all there is to it, to be honest with you. Like, there's 8 teams left in 2 continental championships right now. Canada is one of them. And all of the other 7, you would have said before these tournaments, are elite sides in world football. So this doesn't happen very often. It may not happen again for this generation of players, as optimistic as I am about what they're going to accomplish. I think it's a Copa America semifinal. Easy.
Jordan, do you want to take this away?
I don't know if I should go next. I still need to cool off a bit. AGR, you want to go?
Okay, AGR, jump in.
Sorry. I need a...
I don't know if you want this, Jordan. I don't know if you want me to come in. I agree with Ollie. I'm coming in. My Duke's up. I'm coming in. I think 100%
I feel like I'm getting punked.
Hey,
man.
So take your time, breathe, and enjoy it. But I think I agree with Ollie because it's, again, what's more impressive? Look, no doubt, let's not conflate it. Bigger achievement, making the World Cup, 100%. Canada needed that. This men's team needed it so long without it, 36 years. It was a huge achievement. At the same time, were I surprised to see a Jonathan David, Alphonso Davies, Stefano Stacchio led team make it through CONCACAF? No. I think it was something where a lot of the perennial disappointment kind of crept in. The 8-1s, you only need to draw in Honduras, you only need a 1-0 win in El Salvador, and they didn't get it over the years. But it's something where on paper, Canada was miles better than these teams in that last cycle. And they finally got it over that hump with their skill, combined with John Herdman coming in and reminding these guys that they're actually better and they can beat these teams. statistically, I found a stat that I found really interesting in this. ELO ratings. It's numbers. You can make of it what you will, but I'd say it's a pretty good representation of how good a team is. Canada's win over Venezuela was actually a bigger ELO gap than anything they achieved during the 2022 World Cup cycle. The closest was when Canada beat Mexico, and that was at home on a frozen turf pitch in Edmonton. This was on the road in front of a pro-Venezuela crowd in a major tournament like this. Like this Copa America achievement is a very big deal. Like teams like Brazil are currently watching at home, Ecuador watching at home, Canada is there in the
Uruguay,
let that sink
Colombia.
in. Like that's a big deal.
It's a big.
I love having Alex
Like-
on this show.
Yeah, it's HR. Love you, buddy. Love having you on the show. Ollie, you're my guy. You know that. Both of you are wrong. You are okay. You asked Soteldo. I thought he had a great game. I thought Alistair Johnson nullified him. And he said, would you rather win Copa America or would you rather qualify for the World Cup? You know what homeboy said? Qualify for the World Cup. It is the biggest tournament ever. Canada hadn't qualified for 36 years. Took my old man to the game when they qualified. Homeboy nearly had a heart attack that Canada was going to the World Cup. You know how big this tournament is?
Yeah.
You know how
That's not
huge
the
it is?
question,
I'm
guys.
not taking away from Copa America. I'm not taking away from the performance of the Canadians. I'm elated. I'm ecstatic. I'm glued to the TV every time they play, and I'm getting up and jumping. But guys, one thing we have to acknowledge, the pathway as well, the way that they've done it, the one goal out of the group.
No, we don't.
Look, going to the semifinal, qualifying for the World Cup, to get to dance with the big boys, when you have nations like Venezuela that have never done it and would give their left leg to go to it. It has to be the bigger occasion. Come on, I know you're sipping on the Kool-Aid. That
That's
great
not the
Kool-Aid
question.
that's saying that Copa
Kids
America.
today,
Come on
Jordan,
now.
their recency bias. Like
Get out
qualifying
of
for the
here.
World Cup was the most impressive thing that a Canadian team has done in my lifetime. Qualifying this
Thank
way
you.
through COVID, and you might say it's an Alfonso Davies led team. He only played half the games.
Thank you.
Half the games, and you stack you'll miss games, and it was during COVID, and all kinds of crazy
Everyone else
stuff
had
was
COVID
going on.
as well.
It
COVID
was
wasn't Canadian.
incredible. It was incredible what they were able to accomplish over the course of that stretch, and they did it in impressive because they were the best team over the course of World Cup qualifying as well. It's recency bias, Jordan. Like, look, Canada have done well in this tournament. They went on and beat Venezuela in penalties, and they beat two other teams drew a team and beat a team, and none of them qualified for the last World Cup because they weren't good enough. Look, the draw you can't say, well, Brazil's at home now. Brazil played Uruguay, and they also played Colombia in this tournament already. It's not even close.
So just
try, guys.
Just to clarify, so you're saying that it's more impressive to qualify for a major tournament than it is to reach the semifinals of one.
This one, the World Cup, when you haven't done it in 36
It's about
years,
the
and you're
tournament.
Canada,
Okay,
and
I
you
just want to put that out there. It's a
All
Yes.
I say is Peru, Chile, and
Respect your guys'
Venezuela. You drop them in CONCACAF there. That's the top four teams right there. Like Mexico, that
What
statement
year?
win Canada had.
What year? You even said it.
Yeah,
Mexico
it's funny how
outplayed
they're all
Venezuela. They
rubbish
should have
now.
beat
We weren't
Venezuela
saying
when
that
they played
beforehand.
them. They were all over them. It's just, anyways. Look, not diminishing this. This has been a fun little run, but that World Cup, that was defining. That was a defining moment in the history of Canada soccer. Now, if they beat Argentina, then we can go on and have this conversation. But that's all predicated on what happens on Tuesday night, because that would be the biggest win in Canadian soccer history.
Ask me that question again.
The Olympic win, but the Olympics are the Olympics for the women. But for at least the men's team, this would be the biggest win. So we'll see if they can pull it off. Let's talk some individual performances. Who's had a bigger breakout this tournament? A bigger breakout Copa America? Has it been Max Crepeau or Jacob Schaffelberg? Oliver Platt.
I'm going to go with Crepeau. Schaffelberg's obviously been an amazing story. It's been a pleasure watching him at this tournament and coming into a starting role as well. I just think with Crepeau, you can make a case that this guy's been the best goalkeeper in the tournament. And I know there's a couple of big games still to play where and some very good goalkeepers that will want to have a say in that debate as well. But like so far, I think Romo for Venezuela was very good. Bravo was very good in the group stage for Chile, but the underlying numbers for Max Crepeau, the eye test, whatever you want to use, they're up there with anyone in this tournament. And I think the penalty shootout victory just puts the cherry on top of that. So for me, he's been, given he wasn't the guaranteed starting goalkeeper for Canada a month ago, I think it's Max Crepeau.
The guy, Emi Martinez, is being pretty good as well.
He's had nowhere near as much to do.
Except for the last game against Ecuador when he made multiple incredible saves, including penalties. So, okay, sure. AGR, go ahead.
I'm gonna go Crepeau. This was tough. It's like picking three of your two favorite kids, your two favorite dogs. They've been both great this tournament. I ultimately got to go for Crepeau, though. I just think he's been slightly more important. I think Schaffelberg's been phenomenal, and he's been, like, for me, it's cult hero. Like, he's just been the guy that everyone's learning about. But Crepeau has been absolutely more important. The underlying numbers, as I always love them. He saved 2 post-shot expected goals, which is third best amongst goalkeepers, and that's despite conceding a goal from half. Had they not conceded that goal, his numbers would probably be near the top of that goalkeeper list. What I've liked is the way he's changed how Canada defends. They're able to defend aggressively now. They're able to do things they weren't able to before because they know, okay, Max is there. He's going to come flying off his line if anything goes wrong. He's going to make the big save. And that changes a whole team, the team's confidence. Like, everyone plays a few inches bigger when you have a goalkeeper like that behind you. And I think it's been super impressive because this is a guy who's coming off a pretty major injury less than 2 years ago. He's 30. You're not supposed to get better after something like that. And it feels like every time he sees the pitch, he gets better. And Canada's felt that this tournament. It's helped them massively.
Jordan, can you provide the right answer to the question again?
You know what, Wheels? Maybe we're hanging out too much, and maybe I'm under your tutelage, and this is just what's happening. I agree with all of what you said, gentlemen. But Jacob Schaffelberg in this tournament had an amazing assist and a goal. Like, we have to talk about, and this is a guy that was just sitting on the bench, getting pricks in his bum from the bench because he wasn't playing for Canada. Now he's starting, he's assisting, he's scoring. Like, I get it. I know keepers can save you or keep you in the game, but when you talk about a young kid, someone who's coming and burst onto the scene, a Micah Richards reference, I would have to say this is for him. This is a guy that hasn't played many matches for Canada, and now he's won a name that everyone's saying, and he's product in a team that, look, I can say it plainly, aren't really scoring, aren't really firing from all cylinders. But you're looking at Jacob Schaffelberg like, what are you going to do today for us, buddy? On the world stage. I mean, Crepeau, I love you. Lovely little grizzly bear, great reflexes. But Schaffelberg takes the cake, boys. Not by much. But
Schaffelberg had never started a Canada game until last week. And now he's arguably being their best attacking player. And provided a great meme by Oliver Platt using Joe Biden. Because guess what? Schaffelberg, he'll be running.
I don't think everyone on this show had Crepeau as their starting goalkeeper at the start of this tournament. So it's not like he was like.
You did it after the performance against France? You didn't have him as
I personally did. I did. I'm saying that certainly before the friendlies, not everyone.
Schaffelberg? You had Schaffelberg in your 11?
No.
I think quickly it's just the emergence, right? Going into this tournament, no one's saying Schaffelberg starting, scoring, and possibly one of the top players and performing well. So that has to be taken into consideration. But again, it's tough. It's tough to say.
AGR said it right. We love both. We love both of our dogs. We just love both of our dogs. Just one of them's running a little bit faster right now. Let's hear from Jesse Marsh on Schaffelberg's role within the Canadian team.
Yeah, it wasn't as much about would he be effective off the bench as much as he would be from the start. It was more looking at the balance of the team and what we were trying to achieve and which guys were ready for which roles. But what I said after the Peru game when I started him for Chile is I wasn't going to make the mistake of not starting him again. And so, I believed also with him from watching him that he would fit and benefit a lot from the way that I think about how the team should play and that he could be a real asset. And that's proven to be true. And I think he's just developed quicker than I thought he would and taken on more information in a good way, maybe quicker than I thought he would. And so I'm really excited about helping him and pushing him. And I think that, again, he's another very highly talented person that my job is to challenge him and give him new ways to challenge himself to be better and better. And if we can do that effectively, we'll have a really good player on our hands.
I think I've called him it before, but this whole maritime Messi thing needs to go away because he doesn't play the same way as Messi. He could be the maritime
Who cares?
Mbappe, something like that. Let's
Ollie's
go
like,
in
"I
that
like the
direction there.
nickname."
Just throwing that out there. But it doesn't always have to be Messi. We've been there, done that before. Just a suggestion. Put it in the suggestion box. Bigger breakout this tournament. Let's keep on going down that road. The center back partnership has been great, but pick one. Bigger breakout, Bombito or Cornelius? AJR, you can go first this time.
Yeah, so it's another good question. I guess like that's debating again. But for this one, it was Moise Bombito. I think Derek Cornelius has been great this tournament, but for me, it's been less of a surprise. Like you have to remember sometimes he started one of Canada's biggest wins the last 5 years when they beat the U.S. in 2019 at BMO Field. Like he's been around this team for 5+ years. He just really never got an extended shot, and he's getting that. And it's great. But for Bombito to be where he's at this tournament, based on how the last few years have been. Like this was a guy who got drafted last year who only became a starter this year, and he's come in and completely changed the back line. He gives a profile that no one else has had on this team, and not for a while, with his speed, what he can do on the ball. And I've just loved his mentality. He's had good moments, he's had less good moments, yet I love that he's found a way to make the good moments more memorable, last longer than those low moments. And when there are low moments, he bounces back incredibly, and it's been massive for this defensive line.
AGR's back, baby. He's back. Oliver.
It's Bombito, no question. What I will say is about Derek Cornelius, though, is this tournament may be in some ways more significant for him going forwards. Like as much as he's had a longer stretch with Canada and more experience in his career, he's had some tough days with Canada before as well. And also a club career where he's played kind of all over the place. He, was discarded by the Vancouver Whitecaps, and now he's playing for a top club in Sweden. And I think his form at this tournament could very well push him onto an even higher level. So for Bombito, I think it was always kind of like you looked at the talent of the kid and you thought he's going to rise in this team and in the game generally. Cornelius, I think this is a really big moment for him. He's been terrific.
Jordan?
Cornelius has been terrific, and for me, he has been probably one of my favorite players to watch on the squad going into these games. But you think about Alistair Johnson when he burst onto the scene, and Herdman said he kind of just dropped from the sky. I think we're seeing that with Moise Bombito, right? Like the center back area is an area that I've looked at closely for the Canadian national team. Who's going to be the next one? Do you have someone that's sustainable? Who could be a leader? Who could play a high line? Who is mobile? In 5 games, someone has answered that question. And he's still so young and sprightly. Like Moise Bombito has literally burst onto the scene, has played games maturely. Like Wheels, you mentioned it the other day, playing on a yellow the way that he did. It is not easy as a center back because you have to react to situations in 2 seconds. And you could easily make the wrong decision and cripple your team. And more often than not, 9 times out of 10, he's making the right decision every single time. I don't want to jinx him, but homeboy literally fell from the heavens.
Yeah, it's a Bombito breakout. It's a Cornelius climb. For more on Derek Cornelius, let's hear from Ismael Kone once again on what the real Derek Cornelius is all about.
Derek is the biggest cheater in football games.
Okay, I'll take that.
Oh my God.
Tell me why.
Please. When we play this game 2-touch, he cheats every time, and he acts like he doesn't argue. Like he acts like he doesn't want to cheat, but he's the biggest cheater, I promise. Him and Jonathan David. I'll put Johnny second because Johnny actually argues. But Derek is a funny guy. He's a lovable guy. He's all about his family and his. He's a player that wants to progress. He wants to do everything to be the best. He wants to help his team so bad. He worked hard to get to the level that he is now today. So it's all my brothers are nice, man. I just, like I said, every time I come on this mic, I tell you guys that my brothers are the best. And since I've joined the program, I've just been so happy to play with them, and that's true.
In small-sided games, you always try to cheat. You have to. If you're not cheating, you're not trying.
There's some that cheat significantly, and I could feel that Derek is probably one of those. Like that's what Kona is basically saying, right? Like there's some that cheat bad. Like a little cheating is okay, but the big cheats. Yeah, that ain't.
You guys coming out for the cheaters. Let's just end there.
Oh, okay. No problem. In small-sided games, in life, don't cheat, kids. In life, but small-sided games, cheat away. I love debating with my buddies. Jordan, AGR.
Love you guys.
Great stuff again today. Sorry, I'm getting choked up here. In Canada, Argentina, Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern time from MetLife Stadium. We'll have a Vemos preview show on Tuesday afternoon, and join us for the live reaction show immediately following Final Whistle on One Soccer's YouTube channel. Thanks, everyone. It's been a pleasure. This has been Vemos presented by Degree.